got the Seattle Seahawks going on the road to face the Green Bay Packers. Now, the Seattle Seahawks last week beat the Philadelphia Eagles 17-9, and the Green Bay Packers are coming off of a bye week. Now, before I get into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel because I upload NFL videos and college football videos daily. So, the Green Bay Packers are at home coming off of their first round bye, and the Seattle Seahawks are coming off of a 17-9 victory versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the Green Bay Packers and the Seattle Seahawks, when you look at both of these teams' offenses, I don't think I would be far off to say that these two offenses are similar in their structure and their philosophy. Now, obviously, Seattle has a better wide receiving core than Green Bay, but Green Bay has the better stable of halfbacks. And when you look at what both of these offenses like to do in terms of their styles and their style of play, both of these offenses are run-first offenses. When both of these teams are able to get the run game going, they're really, really hard to beat, and they're basically unstoppable. Now, when both of these teams do not have the running game going, despite having great quarterbacks, they struggle to win games. Seattle, when the run game isn't going, they rely on Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson has to will them to wins, and that's really hard for the Seattle Seahawks to do because their offensive line isn't necessarily great. It's really good when it comes to run blocking, but when it comes to pass protection, it is a little average or a little bit below average, somewhere in between that range. In Green Bay, the offensive line isn't terrible, but it's really, really inconsistent. On some weeks, they look really good, and some weeks, they look really, really awful. So this Green Bay Packers team, the biggest complaint I've seen about the Green Bay Packers this season is that the way they win, they don't win impressively, they don't win dominantly. They just look really scrappy. They just find ways to win games. Now, I think a big dynamic that people aren't really going to talk about in this game is the head coaches. So you got first-year head coach Matt LaFleur coaching in his first playoff game versus the seasoned experienced coach in Pete Carroll. Now, I think that's something that a lot of people need to look out for because when we get into this stretch of the playoffs, especially in the divisional round, you don't really see a lot of first-year head coaches make it out. So, I'm really interested to see how Matt LaFleur handles certain situations in this game because, listen, you can have a great quarterback in Aaron Rodgers all you want to, but you still got to be able to coach your team up into victories. And key moments, key decisions are what's going to define if the Green Bay Packers win this game or not. Because here's why. You got a first-year head coach in Matt LaFleur. Yes, he got the Green Bay Packers to a first-round bye in the regular season. The Green Bay Packers had a good record. But the playoffs is a whole entirely different animal. In the playoffs, not only do you not have to have a good team, but you also have to outcoach the other coach. And when we get deep into the playoffs, most of the coaches that you see making it into the AFC Championship games and the NFC Championship games are some of the best coaches in the NFL most of the time. So the question is Matt LaFleur, when it comes down to making key decisions, whether it's going for it on fourth down, going for it on the goal line and things like that, kicking a field goal or going for the touchdown or something like that, those are going to be the key decisions that Matt LaFleur is going to have to be able to make. Now, we saw Mike Vrabel make those decisions last week versus the New England Patriots, and he thrived. He also found strategic ways to help the Tennessee Titans get over the New England Patriots, whether was it doing those false start penalties and things like that to try to chew a minute off the clock, getting the clock down from 5 minutes to 4 minutes, giving the New England Patriots less time to work with the score. That was an example of some of the situations that Matt LaFleur is going to be put in. So Matt LaFleur, he's going to have to be able to outcoach Pete Carroll, because that's mostly the time what happens in the playoffs. Most of the time, a lot of people say that a team beat the other team and things like that. But another thing that people don't realize in the playoffs, the other dynamic is that if a team loses in the playoffs, that team got out coached most of the time. So the question is, can Matt LaFleur outcoach Pete Carroll? Because Pete Carroll has been in several playoff games. He's been in several critical scenarios and things like that. So the thing is, can Matt LaFleur, when it comes to key situations, how is he going to react? What decisions is he going to make and things like that? And I think that's a really big part of the playoffs that nobody really talks about when you have first-year head coaches. So Green Bay, we got Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, this season hasn't necessarily been an astonishing season, in my opinion, from Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's been great. He's done what you expect out of Aaron Rodgers to do, not turn the ball over, take care of the football and things like that. But I think the big thing that I'm worried about in this game for the Green Bay Packers is what's going to happen if that run game can't get going? What's going to happen when you're going to have to rely on Aaron Rodgers to win the game for you, right? Now, I'm not concerned about Aaron Rodgers and his ability to win the game, but I am concerned about the receivers that he's going to be throwing to. Because if you take away Devontae Adams, who else do you have? Vontez, Scantling? Who else? You don't really have any other reliable number 2 receivers, and that's something that has really plagued the Green Bay Packers for most of the season is their inability to find a reliable number 2 option. Now, if Green Bay is unable to run the football and Devontae Adams gets shut down, Green Bay is going to be in a lot of trouble because then you're going to force Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers to have to find other wide receivers. And on the majority of Aaron Rodgers' dropbacks, Devontae Adams is his primary wide receiver. So what's going to happen when Devontae Adams gets blanketed and the run game's not going? Then you put a lot more pressure on Aaron Rodgers to try to find ways to get these other wide receivers involved in the game. And I think if that happens, as a Green Bay Packer fan, I think that's when you start to panic. You see, the question is, if you're a Green Bay Packers fan, what would make you feel very uncomfortable? And I asked a Green Bay Packers fan, going into this game, what would make him feel uncomfortable about this Green Bay Packers team winning this game? And he said, if the run game gets stopped and Devontae Adams gets double teamed. That's probably the biggest concern for every Green Bay Packers fan. Now, you can say the same thing for the Seattle Seahawks, but in a different light. Now, the question is, for Seattle, what's going to happen if you're able to stop the run game if you're Green Bay? Well, the question isn't about what they're going to do when it comes to passing the football because they got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. They're pretty straight at the wide receiver position. But the question is, can that offensive line hold up? Now, Philadelphia was able to get the better of that Seattle Seahawks offensive line for the most part. The question is, are they going to be able to hold up against this Green Bay Packers front seven and it's the Darius Smith, Preston Smith, and those guys that they have up front? Because Green Bay, the thing that has really stood out from this Green Bay Packers team in the past isn't just their offense, but it's how improved they are on the defense side of the football. So can Seattle's offensive line hold up against this passing group and this pass rush of the Green Bay Packers? That's the question, because if Seattle can't get the run game going, you're not facing a Philadelphia Eagles team like you were last week that's depleted in the secondary, that's depleted on offense. You're facing a fully healthy Green Bay Packers roster. So if Seattle struggles to run the football and they struggle to protect Russell Wilson, I think they're going to be in a lot of trouble as well. And also this Seattle Seahawks defense, they were really impressive versus the Philadelphia Eagles last week for the first half, even though Carson Wentz got injured. But the thing is that Philadelphia really punched herself in the leg because they were unable to convert on some of the key downs. They had to drop passes by Miles Sanders on 4th down, and they also struggled to score inside the red zone. Now, Seattle has one of the best red zone defenses in the NFL, and that's going to be really key because Green Bay does a lot of their damage inside the red zone. So can Seattle get stops inside the red zone? It's a big question that I have going into this game. So can Matt LaFleur make the decisions and make the adjustments that help Green Bay beat Seattle? I'm going back to this because I talked about this a little bit earlier, but another thought popped up in my head. Another thing when it comes to making it and surviving in the playoffs and making it deep into the playoffs and potentially making it to the Super Bowl is how good is the opposing coach at making adjustments. Now, we know Seattle has one of the best coaching staffs in the NFL, and we know how good they are at making adjustments after halftime. But what about Matt LaFleur? How is he going to react if Green Bay comes out in the third quarter down 14-3? What adjustments is he going to make? And can he make those adjustments? That's going to be the question. Adjustments is a big part of making it and surviving in the playoffs. If you cannot make adjustments, you're not going to be able to win in the playoffs. Look at Houston. They were down 16-0 at one point to the Buffalo Bills. What did they do? They made adjustments. They found a way to make that offensive line play better. Although the Houston Texans offensive line didn't play great in the second half, they played way better than what they did in the first half. Houston made adjustments. Look at the Titans and the Patriots game. The Patriots tried to make adjustments, but the Tennessee Titans also made adjustments as well to counter out what the New England Patriots adjustments were. So in the playoffs, it's all about making adjustments. And that's what I'm looking at from Matt LaFleur as a first-year head coach. What how's he going to react in critical situations? And What adjustments is he going to make in key situations? So the team that I'm going with to win this game, I'm taking Seattle for the upset. Now, the reason why I'm taking Seattle is because of experience. I like Pete Carroll over Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur is a first-year head coach. You don't really see a lot of first-year head coaches make it far in the playoffs because they don't thrive in key moments. Now, I'm not saying Matt LaFleur is going to be a bad coach for after this. I'm just saying that this is going to be a learning experience from him. I think Pete Carroll is going to be able to outcoach Matt LaFleur. And I think Matt LaFleur is going to get outcoached by Pete Carroll in key situations because he's a first-year head coach in his first year coaching in a playoff game as a head coach. He's going to have to be able to make those tough, critical decisions and be able to make those adjustments. And the first go-around in the first year, although Green Bay has a home field advantage, I still like Seattle just because I like Pete Carroll's experience and I like this coaching staff that Seattle has over the Green Bay Packers coaching staff. And in the playoffs, it's not all about talent. Most of the time, the most talented team doesn't always win the Super Bowl for a reason. The better coach team is a team that always wins the Super Bowl and makes it far into the playoffs. So I think Seattle is a better coach team than the Green Bay Packers. Not saying that Green Bay's coaching staff is bad. Not saying that Matt LaFleur is a bad coach. I'm just saying that Pete Carroll's coaching staff is a lot more experienced and a lot better than what Green Bay's coaching staff is. And that's why I'm going to take Seattle to pull off the upset. I think Seattle wins this game 24-21 is my final score prediction for this game. So let me know who you guys have winning this game down in the comment section down below. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content. And thanks for watching.